Look, I need to tell you something important that most people aren't paying close attention to right now. Right now, in January 2026, Home Depot is running their winter sales on tools, and this might be the last time you see these prices for a good while. Here's exactly why. Major tool manufacturers including Stanley Black and Decker, Milwaukee, and Illinois Tool Works have all publicly announced they're raising prices this year because of tariff costs hitting their bottom lines hard. We're not talking about small adjustments either. Industry reports show increases ranging from 10 to 25% on tools that use steel and aluminum as primary materials, which is basically everything in your workshop. The window to buy at current prices is closing, and I'm going to show you which 11 tools are worth grabbing right now before price adjustments hit stores. This isn't fear-mongering. This is based on real manufacturer announcements and tariff policies impacting the industry that took effect at the start of 2026. Here's what's actually happening in the tool industry right now. The federal government implemented 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from multiple countries. Steel prices are projected to rise 8.2% and aluminum 5.7% according to industry analysis. Now you might be thinking, so what? But here's the thing. Every drill, every saw, every hand tool uses these materials extensively. Stanley Black & Decker, which owns DeWalt, Craftsman, Black & Decker, and Stanley brands, told investors they're facing nearly $100 million in annual tariff costs. Milwaukee's parent company cited component shortages and cost increases as reasons for price adjustments. Illinois Tool Works, Tecton, and multiple other manufacturers made similar announcements. These aren't rumors or speculation. These are publicly traded companies making official statements to shareholders. What this means for you is simple. The tools sitting on Home Depot shelves right now were manufactured and priced before these tariff costs hit. But once retailers sell through current inventory, the new stock coming in will reflect higher wholesale costs. Some stores are already adjusting prices on certain items. Most locations still have inventory at the old pricing structure, but that's changing week by week as they restock. January 2026 sales are essentially your last opportunity to lock in pre-tariff prices. Starting at number 11, and these are ranked by the combination of price increase potential and actual usefulness for most homeowners and contractors. Tool bags and storage from brands like Husky are currently on sale at Home Depot as part of their winter clearance. This matters because these products use a lot of steel in their frames, handles, and organizational components. The heavy-duty versions with reinforced bottoms and metal support structures are particularly vulnerable to price increases. Right now, you can find these during sales periods. But once manufacturers adjust their pricing to account for higher steel costs, don't be surprised to see 15 to 20% increases on quality tool storage. The smart move for contractors and serious DIYers is buying now while winter sales are active. Professional electricians and tradespeople who need organized tool transport should grab these before spring when prices typically adjust upward anyway, and this year the adjustment will be steeper than usual. The reinforced bottom construction that prevents collapse under heavy loads, the multiple compartment systems that keep every tool accessible. These features require steel reinforcement and quality zippers that all use materials affected by tariffs. At number 10, contractor-grade heavy-duty bags from HDX and similar Home Depot house brands represent incredible value right now. These aren't getting the same attention as power tools, but they should be. Heavy-duty poly contractor bags are used constantly during renovations, demolition, and construction projects. The tear-resistant material and reinforced construction make them essential for handling sharp debris, concrete chunks, and heavy materials that would shred regular garbage bags. Home Depot's winter pricing on these items is already competitive, but once tariff-affected materials work through the supply chain, expect these to cost noticeably more. The polymaterial in quality contractor bags comes from petroleum-based products, and those supply chains are also experiencing cost pressures. Professional contractors go through these bags constantly. Drywall dust, insulation removal, flooring tear-out. These jobs require bags that won't split halfway down the stairs. At current pricing during January sales, stocking up makes financial sense. These products don't expire. They stack flat in storage, and buying several boxes now means avoiding higher costs later this year when inventory turns over. At number 9, combo tool kits from brands like Ryobi are featured heavily in Home Depot's current sales promotions. This is significant timing. Cordless drill and impact driver combo kits have been selling at promotional prices, but the components in these tools are facing multiple cost pressures. The lithium batteries alone are subject to tariff impacts because of the materials used in their construction. Rare earth magnets in brushless motors are getting more expensive due to mining restrictions and trade policies. The tool bodies use aluminum and steel alloys. What you're seeing in January 2026, sales might be Home Depot moving inventory before wholesale prices increase. Industry analysts specifically noted that battery-powered tools would see some of the steepest price increases because they're affected by multiple tariff categories simultaneously. The batteries, the motors, the metal housings, all hit by different cost increases that stack together. Manufacturers have said they'll implement what they call surgical price increases, rather than raising everything across the board, but combo kits that include batteries are specifically vulnerable. If you've been considering entering a battery platform or expanding your cordless tool collection, current January pricing represents better value than what's likely coming. Number 8 might surprise people because it's not a power tool at all. Specialty blades and cutting accessories that handle metal are particularly exposed to price increases. Think about carbide-tipped metal cutting blades for circular saws, abrasive cutoff wheels, and reciprocating saw blades designed for steel. These products use specialty materials, including carbide tips, industrial diamonds, and hardened steel that are all affected by tariff policies. Professional HVAC installers, metal fabricators, and contractors who work with steel studs rely on these accessories constantly. The price per blade might seem small, but when you're going through multiple blades per week, a 15 or 20% increase adds up quickly over a year. Right now, during winter tool sales, you can find promotional pricing on these accessories. Once spring construction season hits and inventory turns over with new wholesale pricing, these same items will cost noticeably more. The carbide tips last significantly longer than standard blades, making them worth the investment even at regular prices. At current sale pricing, they're exceptional value. Metal fabrication isn't slowing down, which means demand for these specialty cutting tools remains strong even as costs increase. Coming in at number 7, cordless finish nailers represent one of the more expensive tool categories likely to see significant price increases. These sophisticated tools use pneumatic systems that require precision machining. The aluminum housings, steel drive mechanisms, and battery management systems all contain materials affected by tariffs. Major manufacturers like DeWalt have these products in their lineups, and the parent company Stanley Black & Decker specifically mentioned that certain tool categories would see price adjustments to maintain margins despite higher input costs. Cordless nailers fall into that category because they can't easily substitute cheaper materials without affecting performance. The tools need to be lightweight yet durable, which means aluminum. They need precision drive systems, which means machined steel. Current inventory at Home Depot was manufactured before recent tariff implementations, but replacement stock will reflect new cost structures. For finished carpenters and contractors who do trim work, crown molding, and cabinet installation professionally, these tools pay for themselves in time savings. The elimination of compressors and air hoses increases mobility and reduces setup time significantly. If this purchase is in your plans for 2026, buying during January sales means avoiding the coming price adjustments. Number 6 is basic but crucial. Steel wheelbarrows and contractor-grade garden equipment are facing direct tariff impact because they're essentially just steel formed into useful shapes. Unlike complex tools where steel is just one component, wheelbarrows are predominantly steel in the tray, handles, and frame. The 25% tariff on steel imports hits these products particularly hard. Home Depot's house brands like Vigoro typically offer good value in this category, and current pricing still reflects pre-tariff costs. But steel prices are already rising, and manufacturers of basic steel products can't easily absorb those costs because their profit margins are relatively thin to begin with. For homeowners planning landscaping projects, contractors doing hardscape or concrete work, or anyone who regularly moves heavy materials, a quality steel wheelbarrow is essential equipment. The cheap plastic versions crack after a season or two. Steel wheelbarrows last for decades if maintained properly. Current January pricing makes this an obvious purchase for anyone who needs one in the next year or two. Waiting until spring or summer means paying more for the exact same product. And unlike electronic tools that improve with new model releases, wheelbarrows haven't changed fundamentally in 50 years. You're not missing out on innovation by buying now. At number 5, stationary power tools like miter saws are heavy steel and aluminum products that ship from overseas factories. The combination of high metal content and shipping costs makes these particularly vulnerable to tariff-related price increases. Manufacturers like Rigid, which is sold exclusively through Home Depot, have comprehensive tool lineups that include these larger stationary tools. Current winter sales often feature significant discounts on these items as retailers make room for spring inventory. But spring 2026 inventory will arrive with new wholesale pricing that reflects tariff costs. The dual bevel compound miter saws especially use a lot of aluminum in their construction to keep weight manageable while maintaining rigidity. Professional framers and trim carpenters use these tools daily, and homeowners tackling significant projects like deck building or room additions will run hundreds of cuts through them. The blade capacity determines what materials you can cut in a single pass, and the compound feature allows angled cuts in multiple directions for complex trim work. Some manufacturers offer lifetime service agreements on these tools, which adds long-term value. At current January sale pricing, these represent solid investments. Once prices adjust upward later this year, that value proposition changes significantly. Number 4 addresses a specific professional tool that homeowners might not immediately think about, but it's worth considering. Drain cleaning machines and specialty plumbing tools use a lot of steel cable and metal housings. These professional-grade tools that plumbers use daily are facing cost increases, but they're also products that handy homeowners can use to avoid expensive service calls. The machines that clear drain lines up to 2 inches in diameter can handle everything from kitchen sinks to main sewer lines in most residential applications. The auto-feed systems that make these easier to use require additional mechanical components, all subject to tariff-affected material costs. At current pricing during sales periods, these tools can pay for themselves with just a couple uses compared to emergency plumber rates. But as wholesale costs increase, the value calculation shifts. For landlords managing multiple properties or homeowners in older houses with recurring drain issues, owning this equipment makes financial sense even at higher prices. But buying during current January promotions means maximizing that return on investment. The reality of home ownership is that drains clog, and having the ability to clear them yourself instead of waiting for a plumber at weekend or holiday rates provides both convenience and cost savings. At number 3, professional-grade cordless hammer drills with battery kits represent significant investments that are definitely in the crosshairs for price increases. Milwaukee's M18 fuel line exemplifies the type of tool affected by multiple tariff categories simultaneously. The brushless motors use rare earth magnets subject to trade restrictions and cost increases. The lithium battery chemistry and cells are affected by battery-specific tariffs. The aluminum and steel tool bodies face metal tariffs. The parent company has specifically stated they're maintaining quality standards rather than switching to cheaper materials, which means prices must increase to maintain margins. For contractors who need to drill into concrete, brick, and block regularly, these aren't optional tools. They're essential equipment that sees daily use. The hammer function that delivers thousands of impacts per minute literally pulverizes masonry while the bit cuts through. Current January sales and promotions on these premium tools represent the best pricing you'll see for a while. Professional tool buyers understand that quality tools last for years, and cheap tools cost more in the long run through replacements, downtime, and frustration. If this type of heavy-duty drilling is part of your regular work, current pricing is optimal timing. Waiting means paying more for identical capability. Number 2 focuses on demolition and renovation tools, specifically cordless reciprocating saws. These workhorses cut through walls, pipes, nails, tree branches, basically anything that needs removing during demolition or renovation work. The tool bodies are mostly aluminum and steel, the blades are hardened steel, and the battery systems face their own cost increases. Manufacturers like Makita, DeWalt, Milwaukee, and others all have these in their cordless lineups. The variable speed triggers and toolless blade change systems that make modern reciprocating saws so much better than older models require precision manufacturing of components now facing higher material costs. Professional remodelers keep these saws in their trucks because there's always something that needs cutting during demolition phases. Old deck boards with rusted nails, stubborn tree roots, frozen bolts, corroded pipes, reciprocating saws handle it all. For homeowners planning renovation projects this year, buying the saw now at current pricing versus waiting until mid-project when prices have adjusted makes obvious financial sense. These tools hold their value well, and quality models last for years even with regular professional use. And now, the number 1 category where tariff impacts will be most visible. Table saws, particularly portable models with rolling stands, use more steel and aluminum than almost any other tool in a workshop. The heavy steel base that keeps the saw stable during cuts, the precision-machined aluminum table surface, the fence system with steel rails, the rolling stand with steel legs and casters. All of this is metal that's now significantly more expensive to source. Major manufacturers like DeWalt have these saws as flagship products in their lineup. The company's parent corporation specifically mentioned that certain high metal content products would see price adjustments because the tariff costs can't be absorbed without destroying margins. Portable table saws with integrated rolling stands are particularly vulnerable because they use so much steel to create a stable cutting platform that can still be moved and stored. Professional carpenters and serious woodworking hobbyists understand that a quality table saw is the foundation of any workshop. The fence system that locks square and stays square makes the difference between frustrating cuts and professional results. The RIP capacity determines what size materials you can handle. These aren't tools you upgrade frequently. You buy once and use for years or decades. Current January pricing on these premium tools represents the best value before tariff-affected inventory arrives. The difference between buying now and waiting until summer could easily be several $100s on the exact same saw. So here's what you actually need to know and do. Tool prices are increasing this year. That's not speculation. That's confirmed by multiple major manufacturers in official statements to investors and the public. Stanley Black & Decker said nearly $100 million in tariff costs annually. Milwaukee's parent company cited rising input costs affecting multiple product lines. Illinois Tool Works made similar announcements about price adjustments. Multiple other manufacturers across the industry echoed these statements. The 25% tariff on steel and aluminum is real. It's in effect now, and it's working through supply chains as we speak. Home Depot's January 2026 sales represent the last major promotional period before spring, when inventory naturally turns over and new wholesale pricing takes effect throughout the industry. The tools sitting on shelves right now, in January 2026, were manufactured and priced months ago, before current tariff costs hit full force. Once retailers sell through that inventory, replacement stock ordered from manufacturers will cost more at wholesale levels, and those costs get passed to consumers. That's how retail works. Industry analysts looking at the steel and aluminum price increases project tool cost increases of 10 to 25% on products with high metal content. Not across the board uniformly, not everything in every category, but targeted increases on products where manufacturers simply can't absorb the higher material costs without destroying their profit margins. If you're planning any tool purchases for projects this year, buying during January sales makes straightforward financial sense. You're not buying because of panic or artificial urgency created by marketing. You're buying because major manufacturers have publicly stated prices are going up, and current retail inventory still reflects old wholesale cost structures. That's just smart purchasing timing based on verified information. For contractors and professional tool users, this is a straightforward business decision without emotion. Higher tool costs mean higher operating expenses, which eventually means either charging more to customers or accepting lower profit margins on existing jobs. Buying before confirmed price increases is basic business planning that any accountant would recommend. For homeowners planning renovation or construction projects, the calculation remains simple. Will you need these specific tools this year? If the answer is yes, current pricing is mathematically better than future pricing that manufacturers have confirmed is coming. These aren't perishable goods that expire or become obsolete. Quality tools from major brands last decades with basic maintenance. Buying now versus 6 months from now means avoiding price increases that manufacturers have already announced in official statements. Check Home Depot's website for current sales and promotional pricing. Compare current prices to historical pricing using price tracking websites. If you want independent verification that current sales represent genuine discounts and not inflated prices marked down to look like deals. Make informed decisions based on your actual project needs and confirmed manufacturer announcements rather than speculation or fear. The tariff situation isn't hypothetical or potential future policy. It's active government policy affecting real manufacturing costs right now in January 2026. Tool manufacturers aren't absorbing those costs indefinitely because they're publicly traded companies with shareholders expecting maintained profit margins. Prices are adjusting throughout this year as old inventory sells through. Current inventory in January still reflects old pricing structures negotiated before tariff implementations. That's the real situation based on verifiable facts and confirmed major industry announcements today, and smart buyers across the tool industry are responding accordingly by making planned purchases now rather than waiting for confirmed higher prices later in year.